They're coming to get you, Barbara. They're coming for you, Barbara.
And welcome to what we've termed as Shrek Talk Reviews, where they're just going to be short little segments that we're going to do, maybe about 10, 15 minutes or so, where we review something. We actually did one of these before.
Is that what we coined that? We didn't discuss that. I guess we're
Yeah,
going with
well,
that.
I'm doing all the posting and all that.
All right, then
All
that's cool with me.
So we actually did one before on the movie The Impossible, but I didn't like the way it came out, so we never did post it. But we're going to try starting this again. Today we're actually going to be doing a board game. It's called DC Deck Building Game.
That's a real catchy name there.
It's a DC Comics deck building game, actually. Terrible name.
It's genius. I mean, it's straight to the point. It tells you everything you need to know. It's not trying to sell itself as anything else. It's witty.
But it is a good game, despite the name, the bad choice of names. I mean, they spent their time and they came up with what's called the Cerberus engine, which they actually use not only on their DC Comics deck building game, but they also use it on a Lord of the Rings deck building game. They've got one for all three of the movies. They've also got one for The Hobbit. And then they've got a Street Fighter game as well.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know about the Street Fighter one. I was unaware.
Yeah, so I bought this game on a whim back in March. I sold a few of my movies and went out into the store and picked it up. And wasn't really expecting much because I read a lot of reviews about how bad the theme was and everything like that. Did you really know anything about the game before I got it?
No, you were the one who was interested in it and had done the research. You said you were, considering it, but you had these concerns about it because you had seen these reviews. But, I was. It's kind of, we both look at our games separately. I realize when we're looking at games, we might discuss it a little bit, but we have very different ideas on how we shop for games, I think. And so when you started talking about it, I was mildly interested. I think I watched one review with you or something because you were really interested in buying it. And beyond that, though, I didn't hardly know anything about it.
Yeah, I'd picked up another deck building game a couple of months before that, and I really enjoyed the whole deck building mechanic. And so I decided to pick this one up basically on the theme. I'm a DC Comics guy. I love DC Comics, and I really wanted to try it out and see what it was like. And I was very surprised. I mean, it's a very simple, easy game to learn, and it's incredibly fun. In fact, we just played it last night.
Yeah, we actually played one of the expansion version of it. But yeah, it's something that it's pretty easy to pick up. The mechanic is simple. Yeah, the theme doesn't work as amazingly as it could with the game, but it's not horrible either. There's certain times that I think the theme of the game and the way it plays. Well, why don't you give a base description of how the game works? Just the basics of how it works.
Okay, it's a real simple concept. You have cards, and you have a starting deck of really weak cards, and the object of the game is to buy up good cards and basically build your deck so that you can destroy villains. And when you destroy a villain, you get that card into your deck. And throughout the course of the game, as you build up your deck, you get victory points. And then at the end of the game, when you defeat all the villains or the deck that you can buy from is run out, you count up your victory points, the game's over, and whoever has the most victory points wins. It's really easy. The starter cards are, a punch and vulnerabilities, and then you can buy kicks, and you gain weaknesses, which are actually negative victory points. But then there's a lot of different concepts. You get to play as a hero. In the first game, I think it's your Justice League, which is the Flash, Cyborg, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and I know there's like a couple more there. But you get to play as those guys, and each one of those has a special ability. Like, for instance, Flash helps you draw a card. So you can draw a card, and you buy other cards that help you draw a card. You can draw more cards and get more power in your hand so you can defeat those supervillains. It's a really easy concept, very streamlined, very easy to recognize what you're doing. And as far as the gameplay goes, I mean, it goes pretty fast, and it seems very fluid with everything that you're doing.
Yeah, I think it's a fun game because it is simple. It's easy to, I think most everyone I've introduced the game to, and that you've introduced the game to, for the most part, seems to enjoy it. It may not be their favorite game, but it's easy to play. The mechanic is solid. There's very, it's pretty easy to understand almost every card that comes out. Maybe one or two you'll have to.
Yeah, and it gives you like a little thing in the book for any questions you might have concerning one of the games.
A couple of the
one
other
of the
cards. But for the most part, I think what makes the game work so well is its simplicity. It's not hard to learn. It's not, you have multiple ways you can play the game, but you can choose. But it's not. It's something I think a 10-year-old could pick up.
Yeah, and we've showed it to our mother, showed it to a whole group of friends, and it takes about 5 to 10 minutes to learn how to play the game. And like you said, it's really easy to read off the cards. You know exactly what you're doing all the time, and you just kind of go through it and play your cards as you go. And there's lots of different versions out there. There's the DC Comics deck building games, the first version. Then you get another full-size version, which is called Heroes Unite. Third version, which is called Forever Evil, which you actually get to play as the bad guys like Lex Luthor and Sinestro, those kind of guys, Bane. You get to play as those guys against the good guys, where you're actually trying to defeat the heroes instead of the villains.
Yeah, which then also gives you the option of combining the two games and playing a good versus evil version, where the as long as you have an even number of players, one side is good, one side's evil, and you're playing against each other.
And I know you really like the Forever Evil version.
Yeah, that's the one I own. I like it because I feel it's slightly different. Okay, then let me give my one negative comment about the game here, which is there comes a point when you have so many of the things in the game, the characters, the special abilities, there's only so many options that are really beneficial, and after you've bought more than one set, you really start feeling it. Now, I own multiple sets of this game. I own the one of the Lord of the Rings versions. I own the expansion.
Which does play a little bit differently than the DC one. You don't play as a hero.
Yeah, they all play a little bit differently. But for the most part, you know them all, and the theme is basically just cut and pasted on the other one. So there is slight differences between each version. Like I would say, the Forever Evil is pretty different from the main version because it's more based on destroying your cards and building this really fluid deck that's got a lot of high powered stuff into it, whereas that's not as common in the regular game. So, but for the most part, that's my only negative comment is, you can't, there's really no point in collecting more than one or two versions of it unless you really like it. And we really like it, so we own a lot of versions of it, especially between us. But like, I probably won't buy any more versions of it, just because I already own the expansion. I own two different ones, the Lord of the Rings and the Forever Evil. But we play the game regularly. I mean, I can't go 2 weeks without playing this game.
Yeah, and then there's also the Crisis expansion and Crisis 2 expansion, which I have Crisis, you have Crisis 2, that brings a whole different spin on the game, where you're playing against, you're co-oping against the villains, and that's, I mean, you have impossible mode and all kinds of crises you have to do. It's pretty crazy. There's also a Rivals version out there, which is you play as Batman and the Joker, and that's all you get to do. It's just a 2-player game. And they're also coming out with Teen Titans full box version. Should be coming out this summer. Then they've got some crossover packs too. Legion of Superheroes, Justice Society of America, the Arrow TV show. They're going to do a crossover with that. And then the one I'm kind of looking forward to is the Watchmen one.
Yeah, I mean, oddly enough, certain things like that might entice me because I do love the characters. I hope they keep add some new things into it that make it, like the Rivals was a nice spin because it was a new. I haven't played it yet, but I'm very interested in it because it will play completely. It plays different than the other ones. So I like how they obviously have a good design. The game is designed well. It's transferable easily, and you can tweak the rules to make a very different gameplay with just a few minor tweaks. And even the way your character's perks are tweaked. Changes the way your gameplay is going to go. So I like that about the game. I like that it's very easy to play a game. Sometimes a game can take an hour. Like my Lord of the Rings version I've played a game in less than an hour. I've played a 4-hour version of my Forever Evil, though. You know, so sometimes the game can take a long time as well. So that's one thing you got to be aware of when you're playing the game. It doesn't go as quick as the box. Like any game, it's never as quick on the box as it says it is on the box.
Yeah, and on the box it says only 30 to 45 minutes. Now, I have played games that were that short. I played a 2-player game with Chorizo, and that game went really, really fast. But like you said, the Forever Evil one, when you're destroying those cards, it can take a long time to get done. But we both agree that this is a pretty simple game. It's a pretty fun game,
Yeah.
and it's definitely something we would recommend. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Sarah Plain and Tall absolutely loves this game and requests to play it like all the time.
As I said, just because I have a few things about it where, you know, I feel like, but I suppose that's a good thing. It allows me to move on and play other games now that I know what I got out of this game, and I don't necessarily feel, but, you know, a Watchmen pack might entice me to buy some more, you know, so it might draw me back in, but I'll still keep playing the versions I got. I don't see that slowing down. I add new games into my collection, and this one still gets played as much as it did when I first got it. So,
yeah, so I would go if you can check it out. It's a fairly cheap game. It's only about $40 as opposed to some of the bigger box games, which are like $50 or $60, even upwards of $100. So it's a fairly cheap game. You're going to get a lot of playtime out of it. It's, you know, you're going to enjoy the game. So I'd go check it out, especially if you're into comic books at all. I think you'll like it. Any final thoughts?
the artwork on some of the cards is really nice.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's the Lord of the Rings one has the pictures, which is cool in its own right. But I really like the artwork in the DC version more personally. I like artwork. So
Yeah.
that's my last compliment to it.
All right, it's pretty awesome. Go check it out. DC Comics deck building game.
Go away or I shall taunt you a second time.